Hello, this is section 9, and we're going to be looking at Job chapter 7. And it says, "Do not mortals have hard service on earth? Are not their days like those of hired laborers, like a slave longing for the evening shadows, or a hired laborer waiting to be paid? So I have been allotted months of futility, and nights of misery have been assigned to me. When I lie down, I think, how long before I get up? The night drags on, and I toss and turn until dawn. My body is clothed in worms and scabs. My skin is broken and festering. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle, and they come to an end without hope. Remember, O God, that my life is but a breath. My eyes will never see happiness again. The eye that now sees me will see me no longer. You will look for me, but I will be no more. As a cloud vanishes and is gone, so one who goes down to the grave does not return. He will never come to his house again. His place will know him no more. Therefore, I will not keep silent. I will speak out in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. Am I the sea or the monster of the deep, that you put me under guard? When I think my bed will comfort me, and my couch will ease my complaint, even then you frighten me with dreams and terrify me with visions, so that I prefer strangling and death rather than this body of mine. I despise my life. I would not live forever. Let me alone. My days have no meaning. What is mankind that you make so much of them, that you give them so much attention, that you examine them every morning and test them every moment? Will you never look away from me, or let me alone even for an instant? If I have sinned, what have I done to you? And you who see everything we do, why have you made me your target? Have I become a burden to you? Why do you not pardon my offenses and forgive my sins? For I will soon lie down in the dust. You will search for me, but I will be no more." So that was Job, continuing his speech there. And just a few things that I want to talk about. And the first is Job's understanding of life. I mean, you see a change. You can't compare this text to, chapter 1, for example, and say, well, in chapter 1, before everything happened to him, he was, he enjoyed his life, and he, was grateful for his life, and now he's not, because we don't have language, from Job talking about his life prior to everything that happened to him. But it can be assumed that Job had a certain level of, he had a purpose as he saw it. And we see later, you'll see later in the text, the things that Job actually did within his community. You see his his dedication to service for the people around him, and how that really grounded him. But we don't we don't really get a glimpse of that in the beginning, in the first and second chapters. But what we do see is that he's um, faithful in prayer, um, um, really for his children's sake. So we know that his children were very important to him, and um, God was very important to him. And so, it was enough for him um, to make the effort to live in a godly way, and to encourage his children to live in a godly way. And I think he was, you know, uh, I think it could be said that he was perfectly um, content, with just what he had. His family was sufficient for him. Um, his wealth was more than sufficient for him. Um, and he was satisfied with the life that he had. Now that he's ill and that his children are gone and his house, his wealth has been destroyed. His property has been destroyed. His wealth has been relinquished. Um, or that's not the right word. There's a better word for it. Um, but his wealth is gone. And his he has nothing that he had in the beginning, except his wife. And now, as we saw in the last chapter, and some other places too, he doesn't. I mean, he doesn't. We know he doesn't value his life. But not only does he not value his life, he doesn't value life in general. Or at least he doesn't. He has a uh, he has a different understanding of it. Um, he sees life as laborious and um, you know filled with strain and um, just tumultuous and um, fraught with all kinds of difficulty, tribulation, um, and he really doesn't. For that reason, he doesn't understand um, what the purpose of life is. What good is life if this is how it's going to be? And I think he's cognizant of the fact that there were, at the time that he was alive, millions of other people who were experiencing a similar degree of hardship. And this is, I mean, it really begs the question, and we see even in places in the New Testament, life is uh, uh, compared to a race, that you have to run. Um, it's not always this, blissful and worthwhile endeavor that uh, you know a lot of people view it or perceive it to be. So I thought that was interesting. And the second thing is, Job really wasn't confident that he was going to survive. He really thought that this was the end. Um, you know, I think his understanding was, it's only a matter of time before I actually succumb to not just my sickness, but the weight of this emotional burden, uh, and whether or not that speaks to his faith in God, I think is up for debate. I think um, you know I can't say that just based on the text that this translated into a lack of confidence in God. That God can't help me. I don't think that's what he was saying. I think he was saying that God if the trend line continues, then I'm going to die. And it seems more likely that I'm going to die um, than it is that I would just that I recover and that everything would be set right again. That's what he was saying. I think he understood the power of God. I think he understood that God had the capacity to alter his situation. Um, but I think that given his confusion, as to why he was experiencing all of this in the first place, he was inclined to think that um, it was more probable that he was just going to succumb. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And then, the other thing, too, is that, I think his, and you'll see sort of his friends making the implication saying, essentially, stop whining. You're spending you're wasting all your time whining and complaining about all of this. And Job is saying, yes, I am going to complain about it because it's hurting me, and I have to convey this to you so that because you don't quite understand. And I think that perhaps if his friends had been more receptive to him, then he wouldn't have felt it necessary to lament, in the way that he did. And we see him, sort of, calling out his friends, for their lack of empathy, and saying, because you don't get it, now I have to make even more of an effort to explain to you the degree of my suffering in this moment. And the last thing that I want to say is that, as many people do who find themselves in similar circumstances, people who find themselves dealing with a mental condition of some kind, they want to know what's going on and why it's going on. They want answers, and they want them now. And that's what Job wanted. And Job was very bold in that he was willing to really make that clear and express that desire in a very sort of audacious manner. He wanted to know why he was experiencing what he was experiencing. And this is what this is what tends to be a problem for a lot of people, because Job is the prime example of God's tendency to sometimes act in an unfair way. And we can't, there's a part of our mind that is really adamant about having some sort of understanding, because you can't serve a God that's not fair. You can't serve a God that's unjust. So he wanted to know, where he went wrong to warrant all of this. His faith was strong enough to withstand the temptation to just walk away entirely, but he still wanted to know what was going on, and I think he was right in wanting that explanation. He didn't really get a full one in the end, but he made the request anyway, and I think that just speaks to where he was at the time.